If you were to ask me to describe my father, I would not necessarily use the word sweet. He was not a sweet man, a kind man, but not sweet. You've probably heard me talk about my father. No nonsense. He was a farmer, very direct. He had things to do, a lot of things to do. And he wasn't really the type to dole out compliments or be overly, supportive or have regular check-ins. He was kind, but I would not call him sweet, except there was one thing that I remember that he would do that I would characterize as very, very tender and sweet. On many occasions on our farm, we had dogs that would have puppies. And my father loved it, absolutely loved it when one of our dogs would give birth to a big litter of puppies. And on these occasions, as if to announce the joy of new life, early in the morning he would bring one of those puppies and put it in bed with me. Perhaps as a way of waking me up, but I just remember the little puppies. They had little pink noses, and their eyes weren't open yet, and they would just nuzzle and snuggle and find you can hear them like whimpering and breathing and trying to find a place to cuddle in. It was so sweet, cozy, warm, and helpless. I think the purpose of my father's gift was to bring a smile to my face, but I also have to believe that there was another lesson, which was awakening me to the innate need to care for and protect the helpless and the vulnerable. So these new helpless puppies wouldn't stay there very long. We would eventually return them to their mother and to the litter. And I remember just being able to watch and stare at those puppies for hours, watching them crawl all over each other until they finally, just for a moment, found a place where they could all fit together and settle in under the warm blanket of their mother's protection. Secure, warm, held, and holy. How often, Jesus says, how often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings. This is the desire of Jesus. The desire of Jesus. Puppies, kittens, baby birds, and chicks, the most vulnerable and helpless, looking for a place to cozy in and feel warm and protected. Have you ever needed to be brought in and to feel warm and protected? Could this be the point of our gospel today? Well, I think it is. But as usual, there's a little backing up we need to do in order to capture the whole story. You say, here in the Episcopal Church, we are in the season of Lent. And last week we spent time with Jesus in the desert where he was tempted for 40 days and 40 nights. Lent, you see, is a season of vulnerability, a time to explore our soft spots. And today the journey has truly begun, not only for us, but for Jesus. Jesus who is on his way to Jerusalem. Jerusalem, Jerusalem. Now today we're in the 13th chapter of Luke's Gospel, but the journey for Jesus really began back in chapter 9. It was back in chapter 9 when we heard Luke tell us that Jesus set his face toward Jerusalem. This is an epic moment. You might imagine Kevin Costner in Dances with Wolves, ready to hit the frontier. Not really, but in your head, you have to have these images. Jesus sets his face toward Jerusalem. And this isn't really a casual, I think I'll go to the river for the weekend trip, right? This is a holy destination. He turns his face, not only his face, his whole being, his whole life toward Jerusalem. But what's this prophet business all about? What's wrong with being a prophet? And why will it get you killed? Well, you see, Jesus is a prophet. And Jesus has been running around prior to this. He's been healing and casting out demons and proclaiming all kinds of good news to the people. He healed a woman that was crippled for 18 years. Remember that? And then there was that moment when he talked about sin and sinners, telling the religious leaders that the worst sinners and the occasional amateur sinners are all in the same boat. That's a challenging teaching by Jesus, isn't it? Big sin, little sin, treated the same by God. Yes, Jesus has been doing the work of a prophet, and a prophet says the establishment is not the solution. God is the solution. And the religious establishment is not wanting to hear it. So that's why some of the Pharisees come and they say to him, "My man, you need to get out of town. You need to get on down the road, Jesus, because Herod has his eye on you and wants to kill you." And then Jesus, on his way to Jerusalem, says, "You go and you tell that fox." Fox is not a good thing. As somebody said in our Bible study this morning, there might have been a translation error, and it's really supposed to be a 4-letter word. You go and tell that fox what I'm doing. I'm healing, I'm offering freedom, I'm offering hope. This is what I came to do. You see, Jerusalem was a center of political and religious power. And Jesus' message was clear, and we remember that message. We remember what his job description is, Jesus the prophet. It came from that scroll in Isaiah. "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free." So Jesus embodies and incarnates this message of the prophet. And the powers of Jerusalem are not going to welcome it. Jesus knows that he is going to take a hit and be crucified for it. And then this is where the passage begins to take on its meaning, at least for me today. Did you catch what Jesus says at the end of that sentence? "How often I have desired to gather you together like a hen gathers her brood under her wings, but you are not willing." So what's incredible to me about this passage is that I think Jesus is saying here that he wants to draw not just us, but everyone close. Every single one of us close. To hold, to envelop in love and grace. Even the foxes, and even the people who seek to kill the prophet of God. Notice that Jesus does not excuse or ignore their behavior. If anything, he's critical of it and wants them to change. But still, he wants all of us. The good, the poor, the bad, the rich, the bold and the beautiful, the humble and the meek. The people you like and the people you don't like. Those who share your opinions, and those who are reading off of an entirely different script. All of us. One commentator reminds us that Jesus sees us all as barnyard chicks lost in a storm, too afraid and too stubborn to find shelter under the shadow of the mother hen's wings. How I long to care for you and protect you. How I have longed to gather all of you under my wings, just like a mother hen. So this is the thing about the passage today, and this is the thing about our Jesus. No matter what, It is Jesus' nature to take us under his wing and hold us. There's been this cartoon floating around on social media. You've probably seen it. It's of Jesus on the Sermon on the Mount type of scene. And he's in that stance, and there's a cartoon bubble over his head, and it says, "Love one another." And then the next frame is another cartoon bubble over the crowd that says, even Larry? Larry gets on my nerves. Larry is never satisfied. And Jesus says, yes, even Larry. And then from the back, another bubble comes up. See, told you so. And Jesus says, enough, Larry. So we've been involved in these sacred ground conversations for several weeks. And this past week, my group covered the territory of classism. While sacred ground is about exploring our racial stories, I'm noticing that there are also so many divisions within races. How we stereotype others, the poor, those with varying degrees of education, those with different bank accounts or zip codes, or beliefs about all manner of things. It's shocking, isn't it, when we find out that those we thought we knew actually hold different values. Remember Jerusalem, Jerusalem. It's going to be the place that represents shocking surprise and betrayal. Larry, are you the one holding the whip? I didn't think that was you. Jesus is going to undergo excruciating pain. They're going to nail him to a cross and count his very last breaths. Yet still Jesus says that all of those people, the ones with the accusations and the verdicts and the hammers and the nails, all of them he is willing to take into himself, cover them and hold them and protect them. How I've longed to hold you and protect you as a mother protects her children. What an image for we who are called to be the church. What an image for those of us who are called to be Christians. A fierce mother whose only desire is to protect, hold, and help. Well, maybe that's our message today. Are we as willing to protect, hold, and help? Ultimately, Jesus is again pointing to the vulnerable, to the baby chicks, to the pink-skinned, eyes unopened, who just need someone to help them find their place in the litter. And yes, Jesus is on his way. He's on a journey, and he's not there yet, but he reminds us that even the powerful fox can be overshadowed by the fierce mother hen. As I think about this passage today of a mother hen protecting her young, I think of those students in the bunkers of Ukraine, scared, wondering what is happening all around them. And I think of those teachers reading, talking, reaching out their wings to cover them. How I have longed to gather you all together. In a few weeks, we'll experience Jesus on a cross, spreading his wings wide enough to cover all of humanity, all of us, all of our similarities, all of our differences. Wings spread wide from a cross. Once again, I point to the table, to the altar. For it is here that I gain my greatest understanding of what it looks like to hide under the shadow of God's wings. Whether rich or poor, whatever class we claim, whatever box we check, whatever hand we hold, we come to this altar you can rest assured that we are all a quivering, whimpering mess. But God still covers us and pulls us in and says, I got you. And that, my friends, is a little thing we call grace. We're all trying to find our comfort zone, and it can be super awkward out there. But here you belong. No matter what. 100%, you are more than welcome here at this table. In fact, this table was made for you. So, when you come up here today for communion, I hope that you feel the shadow of God's wings wrap around you and know that you are a part of the pack. Searching, probably. Vulnerable, maybe. Held, known, and loved, definitely. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, Jesus prays. Today we continue our journey with Jerusalem, our journey with Jesus. There will be foxes who intimidate and bully, but by God's grace we have a mother hen named Jesus, who is already spreading her wings and will do far more than we can ask or imagine today, tomorrow, and on the third day, as we all rise together and face a new tomorrow.